Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Gibby reps NJ. They're the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? It's real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to yapping.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Til Mets Do Us Part, where we are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitter, like we are basically each and every single week, Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern Time or thereabouts, getting started a couple minutes later here today, and that is because the Mets played a day game, and when that happens, sometimes we have to make sure that we have all the stuff up to date. We got to make sure that the title is up to date. We have to make sure that the banner, the crawl at the bottom of the screen is up to date, and everything is up to the second as we are ready to rock. John Saponaro out in Los Angeles, California, which means that my partner, my co-host, Matt Ibanez, holding it down in New Jersey. Ibby, I will never drop the ball on this again. How you feeling, man?
I am feeling awesome, John. Thank you for asking, as always. And, you know, these last couple of days have been pretty wild for our New York Mets in a good way. We've been talking a lot about what this team can do over the stretch of August, how important the next string of games was going to be against big-time opponents such as Baltimore, and we have the Padres coming up and the D-backs, and handling business the best way that we can. And we got a lot to talk about, but I am pumped up, and I'm sure everyone in the chat, based off of the last 3 days, the excitement that this team has brought us, we're going to cover it all and look about what's ahead as well. So let's do this. Let's have a show.
Let's get right into it. This is from us. Shout out to everybody in the chat, by the way. Over 34 people right now, but I'm sure that will continue to grow as it does once we are live and we are rolling and people start to get alerts and we retweet it and some of the folks in the chat also share it and all that fun stuff. But from us, hit like and subscribe to the channel. And like Jeff Cohen says, only 195 subscribers to 1,000. When we hit 1,000, we have an amazing giveaway to one lucky fan as our viewership hits 39, an appropriate number because it is an Edwin Diaz signed baseball. That is right. An
Tell your friends.
Diaz signed baseball could be yours for the low price of $0 and just clicking subscribe on the Til Mets Do Us Part YouTube channel. Yeah, it takes 1 second. Tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your friends. Jump in with Mark here. Walk-off home runs rule. Yes, they do.
That they do.
They rule. They are excellent. They are amazing in every way. They're exciting. They're fun. They're energizing. They're invigorating. Look at what it has meant to the two people who hit the walk-off home runs this series. Of course, Francisco Alvarez does it in game 1, and Jesse Winker has his kind of Mets moment here in game 3, as the Mets take 2 out of 3 from the very, very, very good Baltimore Orioles team. And, you know, Ibby, I don't want to start on a negative, but, you know, there's some people that are dragging this on Twitter, that this is not how you celebrate in the major leagues and stuff like that. And that is absolute clown behavior. I don't want to hear it. Like, no, it's ridiculous, man. Like, this is, listen, if you don't like it, stop watching baseball, dude. It's kind of like what we were talking about a couple weeks ago. Like, this is what baseball is now. It's what modern sports are now. And it's never going to go back to this thing where you're like, oh, wow, in the 70s, nobody did this. I don't care. It's not 1970. It's not 1980. It's not 1990. It's certainly not 1960 and beyond that. It's 2024. Get with it. Grow up.
I am very happy because it shows. And again, we just kind of went into this today, people, and this is why me and John are on the same page here, because I'm glad he brought this up first, because I was just talking with a friend who should be in the chat soon, TJ. Everyone knows him in there. I had mentioned to him, because he sent me the video that was someone put out of both the Winker and Alvarez walk-off shots, and basically the caption was, are these the two best pimp jobs of the year, or best walk-offs, whatever? And my response was, for people that complain about this type of thing, these are the same people that are always saying that they want a certain type of energy, they want a certain type of player, they want to, like, for lack of a better term, and I apologize for my language this soon in the show, and usually I save it for times when I'm angry, but this is that fuck you energy that everyone has been wanting the Mets to have, and you just watched your young stud catcher who's been struggling do an unbelievable walk-off that had the place full of electricity, an incredible one. And he goes about handling his business the way that he did. It was great. Jesse Winker, same thing today. Throws the helmet, the hair's going everywhere. He's rounding the bases. He's saying that he loves this shit. Like, this is the type of energy that you want. You want a certain type of player in New York. You finally get that, or you get that in a walk-off fashion, coupled with a win against one of the better teams in Major League Baseball this year. This is something that should be celebrated. Like, this is what you want. They're going out there and doing those things. You want this energy to carry as they get on a plane to go onto the West Coast now, when it comes to, like I said, the likes of the D-backs and the Padres coming up. But I love everything about this. This is what you want from a team, especially you as a fan who watched a dead team last year, completely dead and lifeless. This team, rallies around each other. They're pumped up. They're excited. I am so excited when I, as a fan, get to see my guys hit a walk-off job like that. It was awesome. If you don't like it, get lost. I don't need you. But for everyone else that is enjoying it, you are in the right. And the Mets, for doing that, are also in the right. Also, shout out real quick to the Mets admin for clapping back beautifully at the Baltimore Orioles account just before.
100%. Absolutely true. And look, most of the people in the chat so far agree. I mean, you've got, Chris Rams is saying walk-off Wednesday. You got Jeff Cohen saying this is how they celebrate in today's baseball, with emphasis on today. This one not exactly related to what we're talking about in this specific moment, but it kind of sort of is. A friend of the show, Matt Williams, saying, good afternoon, everyone. Jesse effing Winker, baby. I mean, it's the second part of that for me. That's how fans celebrate, and that's how I want my players to celebrate. We got Brad saying baseball is meant to be fun. Mr. Nobody totally on board with the celebrations. We got Charlie saying it's 2024. We have celebrations. We have OMG. We have Gatorade buckets. We have Kidcasters. LOL. We have it all. I mean, it's true. And then Mark, who we've already checked in with, players are allowed to be fun and be happy. Ibby, I'm going to take it one step further than what you just said. You can't have it both ways. If you're going to sit here and throw the kind of criticism on the Mets' doorstep, which in some cases is deserved, that the Mets are too soft, that the Mets let people walk all over them. Yeah. Where's the fire? Where's the fight? Where's the energy? And then they show you fire. They show you fight. They show you energy. And now, oh my God, it's too much. Oh, I wouldn't do like. You can't have it both ways. Yeah. You can't have it both ways. And of course, I'm talking about a specific former player who's active on Twitter, who I've gotten into it with before, with regards to stuff like this. And I find it especially surprising, even if you played in a different era, if you're a former player and you have that kind of take, because here's the thing. This team is in the thick of a playoff race. Yeah. So isn't that the kind of thing that you want to see, to my first point? And the second part is, remember about a week ago when JD Martinez did his interview and he's like, look, August is the hardest month to play in because, you're in the home stretch. It's the hottest month. And, you're either trying to get to September where you can really push to the playoffs, or if you're a really bad team, you're kind of like the season's almost over. We're playing out the string, but we're not quite playing out the string yet because we have over a month to go. So whatever your reasoning is, whatever kind of team you are, you should be looking for that little something extra to get you through this point of the schedule. And I think no one should know that better than somebody who is a former player. And so I just find that to be, regardless of what level you played at, I just find that to be such a hack opinion. Like, oh, this is, and you know, it's funny because I just saw you star this and I was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Keith saying, shout out to Keith Blacknick, oh my God, these celebrations, think of the children. And it's funny because that's been the whole thing with this person online. Like, hey kids, this is not how you celebrate. Hey kids, this is, listen, I understand that baseball players and famous people to a degree have a unwritten responsibility of being a role model. But first of all, these guys are not out there beating women. These guys are not out there doing horrible stuff. These guys are celebrating a win. And yes, maybe they have to be a role model. Maybe they have to show kids how to quote unquote play the game the right way. But playing the game the right way means, one, having fun. And then on the flip side of it, they're not these people, Jesse Winker, Francisco Alvarez, they're not little kids. They're professionals. And there is a limit to where you can say, oh, well, they just have to be role models all the time and they have to do everything the way you would do it in Little League all the time. No, they don't. They're making millions of dollars to play a kid's game, and God forbid they show a little bit of youthful exuberance. So I just think the whole thing, from any perspective that you look at it, if you're looking at it with any kind of like, turning your nose, like, down on it, like you're just so out of touch. Man, just stop watching baseball. Get a different hobby. Go watch golf.
Well, don't really. I mean, I do like watching my golf here and there too. But
I'm just saying, like that's no, part of the thing there, right? Like, just you give the Tiger Woods fist pump, and then you.
But at the same time, like even with the youthful turn that's happening in golf, there's a lot of older fans that don't like when a person wears a beanie instead of a hat, or when someone wears shorts, or like there's a whole bunch of stuff too. There's changeover that happens within all sports that people are very hesitant to accept. Again, I don't even know, and you don't have to say the name because I don't want to bring credence or attention to a person who's just talking nonsense on Twitter. But whoever it may be, the point being from my end is I don't know why you think everything has to be so buttoned up. I don't understand why you would think that this is a bad thing for children or kids to see. Even kids that play the game could see. Like, I'm sorry, but if you want the honest truth, if you pipe a fastball and someone takes it, 450 the other way or whatever it may be, they can do whatever the hell they want because it's the hardest thing to do in sports. Like that's the way I always look at it. That's the way I teach my kids too. Like, look, if you're going to surf something up and someone shows you up, go out there and beat them the next time. And, that's just kind of the way it goes. If someone wants to celebrate that, let them. Like, it's a great feeling to get a big hit, especially a walk-off hit. Like, please, like, one of the coolest things to see in all of sports is to hit a walk-off home run, whether it's in a regular season game in the middle of August or in October or whatever it may be. You don't have to just put your head down and be an adult and just run around the bases. Like, no, you're allowed to show that emotion. That shows that you're a human being.
I'm gonna leave this conversation here after I pull up this comment from Carson, and this is what I meant. I'll pull up this comment. I'll give my final thoughts on it, and we'll move on because obviously the Mets are in the thick of a great thing. This sums up what I mean about, like, the being a role model aspect of it. When I said, like, obviously there are people in Major League Baseball who have attacked women and stuff like that. What I mean is like people like Jesse Winker is not doing that. Like Francisco Alvarez has not done that. Like, these are not bad guys setting bad examples. You want to find a person who's setting a bad example, go take it out on one of those people. And Carson brings up a great point. If this was the 80s, they'd be celebrating with Coke and casinos. Pick your poison. I'd rather go for the pimp job. Winker is a treasure. And I agree there. Like, it's like, look, back then, that's what they did, right? Like, and nobody was like, oh my God, like, these guys are role models. They were just like, oh, these guys are adults, right? Like, it's funny how quickly
it's also the presence
the whole
of
tenor changes.
Too. That whole thing, too. Yeah.
Of course. And, like the last thing I'll say, speaking of social media, this person, went out after the Alvarez thing and tweeted a video from like, I don't know, some point in the mid 90s of a walk-off win by the Braves. And it was like, a single into center field, and then like Chipper Jones, who hit it, like he gets to first base, he like pumps his fist, the run scores, and I was like, dude, what? This is not the flex you think it is. Everything about this is boring. Even the announcer's call was like, it's a fastball down the middle, and that's gonna be a base hit for Chipper Jones. He'll touch first base, and the Braves win the game. Wow. Like, that was the call. That was the call. There was no fucking inflection. There was no anything. And it was like, dude, this is brutal. This is brutal to watch. No wonder so many kids stopped caring about baseball in the 90s, because that was boring as shit. I would rather watch paint dry while somebody like folds clothes next to it, waiting for a teapot to boil, than watch that. That is brutal. Absolutely.
Two of the things
brutal.
I hate the most: painting and laundry. The worst things.
That's what I'm saying. Like, exactly, the most boring fucking things in the world. So anyway, if you don't enjoy this, you have no soul. And you need to move on with your life and pick up things to be.
Don't want your energy.
Don't want your energy. Don't need your energy. Go away. Leave the game. Leave it. Yeah, this is great from Keith. What about the celebration Chipper Jones had when he played against the Mets and he killed them? Yeah, what about that? Is that fine? That's also fine. And yes, this is what I was saying before, Jeff Cohen saying, also the team's fighting for a playoff spot. It's not the Rockies or the White Sox acting like they just won the World Series when they have like 23 total wins on the season. Right. It's totally different. It's totally different. That said, it'd be big moment, huge moment for the Mets, for Jesse Winker. Jesse Winker does his post-game press conference immediately with Gelbs, and then the one when he has a couple minutes to kind of settle in a little bit more. Jesse Winker is all of us, man. It's a full circle moment for Winker, because you and I have been talking about how he so fittingly played the heel. Like, you can tell when he was against the Mets, there was no real animosity. This is not a aforementioned Chipper Jones situation that he didn't like the Mets. He liked playing the heel. He liked being the bad guy for fun. And then he gets here and he talked a little bit about that. And he's like, it's great to be on the other side of it. I've always had respect for these fans. And you see it, man, like the range of emotions from Winker, where he was so pumped up. He was talking about being blacked out. He dropped the word shit. And this is what I was just going to bring up from Daniel Capps. And then, like, on the next question, he was choked up. He was almost crying with the emotion. Like, that's what I want to see. What an unbelievable moment for him. And I don't want the Alvarez one to get lost in the shuffle either, because, look, Alvarez has been scuffling a little bit, especially with regards to the long ball. And, like, this is how you beat good teams. You look at it, and you see that, the Mets didn't get blown out in any of these games. The Mets had a bad pitching performance from Quintana in the second game. They managed to get it close. They have one bad play, and that pushes the Orioles basically to a point that's insurmountable after the Mets already started to mount a comeback. And people can LOL Mets, and shout out to the Baltimore Orioles admin for trolling us on social media. But, like, that can happen to any baseball team. What happened today? What happened? A great all-world shortstop, Gunnar Henderson, bobbled the ball at shortstop, and it led to the Mets scoring a run. So that can happen to any team at any point. This is not LOL Mets. And at the end of the day, Ibby, the Mets walk away with two big-time wins against a big-time opponent, and they make their way out here to Southern California again for what could be a season-defining road trip.
It's, this getting the energy the way that they're winning these two games. And like you said, that second game, we'll talk about Quintana in a little bit, but everything that went forth against a tough team like Baltimore, like people were nervous coming into the series, because you're like, if they're scuffling a little bit, if they're not going to be able to handle business, like this is a huge trip or a huge start to it, to the back end of August. And the fact that they were able to go out there and win two games in the fashion that they did goes a long way. It does. And I'm praying that it does carry over onto that plane and they're ready to go. But, if there's one thing we can say about this team, it's that when push comes to shove, and they've been playing to their detriment as well, like they play very much up to competition and then they play down to competition. Well, these next two series are big ones, and they're against teams that are firing on all cylinders with the D-backs as well as the Padres, teams that are in the hunt. And we also have to throw this in too. And it's not to like show that there's any room for there's no lack of room for error, I should say, because like I said, I was upset last week because they didn't take advantage of that softer part of the schedule. But we also have to bring up the Atlanta Braves got hit with some very tough news. Like they're in that last wild card spot right now, but they just lost Austin Riley for the rest of the season. Like he's not, if they make the playoffs, he could come back, but he's out for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So he's done for the regular season. So that's a huge blow to them. I think they just signed Gio Urshela, but again, huge drop off in terms of production there in the middle of that line. The team that's faced a lot of adversity this year with injury. So again, Mets are behind them at the moment, but they can really make up some ground here and do some damage. So hopefully things can carry over from what has happened over the last couple of days. And it's huge, absolutely huge to take 2 or 3 from one of the best teams in baseball this season.
Absolutely. And look, you never root for injuries, of course.
No, never.
But if they happen, because they're going to happen, right? Every team goes through it. And, if they happen, you have to be able to take advantage of it, right? You have to be able to maximize what you can do with a diminished team that is in front of you, and look, you mentioned the Mets coming out here, playing San Diego, then going to Arizona, 2 teams that are ahead of them in the standings. They're also the teams with the 2 best records since the All-Star break. And the reason why the Mets have fallen, out of contention for the time being with those top wild card spots, which is where they were heading into the All-Star break, is because San Diego and Arizona have the 2 best records since the All-Star break, and the Mets have been middling. After today, the Mets, I think, are 17-15. So they have a winning record, but you look at what these other teams have done, they've got 22-5 over that same span. And that is going to be the difference. So you have to take advantage when you can. Ibby, that I don't like using the term must win. I think must win is the most overrated term in sports, especially in baseball. Season is too long. I don't like using it until it is literal. But these games coming up against San Diego and Arizona are as close to that as possible because they're supremely important, because you can set yourself up. You have games with teams that are ahead of you. I think, the second wild card spot is 4.5 games up on the Mets or something like that, somewhere in that range. So go out there and take care of business, because the Mets don't have it. We talked about it last week. The Mets don't control their own destiny, Ibby, but it feels like it does, because they still have so many games with San Diego, Arizona, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. So if you handle business in those series, it feels like you can do anything. Is it a long shot for the Mets to win the division? Absolutely. Am I telling you right now, Mets fans who are watching and listening, that the Mets will win the division? No. I'm telling you, though, the Mets could win the division. They have 7 games left against Philadelphia. They have another, 3 or 4 against the diminished Braves now that we just mentioned. Right. And they have these 2 big series coming up. So it's all still right in front of the Mets. And just before I toss it back to you, Jeff saying, John, make a trip to San Diego to rep the Mets. I will be. I'm going to San Diego tomorrow.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, will be the first time. Oh, sorry about that. It will be the first time that I have the opportunity to see the Mets live all year, just the way my schedule has worked out. And I got to be honest, it's not even great, because normally I travel on Thursdays. This week, this weekend, I'm working in California, in Central Cali, so I can drive. But I do have to. That means tomorrow I'm gonna drive a couple hours down to San Diego, see the game, drive immediately back home, get home probably around midnight or later, have to wake up early in the morning, and then drive from LA up to Central California, which is another few hours. So I am making a big time sacrifice in terms of my sleep to be able to see our Mets play. It is worth it to me, though, so I'm not gonna be bummed about it. But it'd be nice if they don't lose by 8 tomorrow morning. I'm going to be tired too, so I know the Mets are going to be a little jet lagged when they get to San Diego tonight. But maybe play with a little bit of gusto, because I would hate to drive down there to watch them lose big.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say jokingly, because you're out in California, that means you're gonna be driving the entire time. So basically, you're going to be watching the game for 3 hours, and then all of a sudden you'll be driving for the next 20, because there's so much traffic over there in California. But no, it's the fact that this is going to be your first. You said it's your first game, right? First game of the year.
First game in person.
First game. Season, yeah. First game. So, again, you'll have a good time, and hopefully, do you know who's pitching? Did you look ahead yet or no? You didn't see.
Is it Severino and Cease? Is that the matchup for tomorrow?
Might be. I think
it's Severino and Dylan Cease.
Speaking of Severino, if we're gonna bring him up, I mean, you want to talk about a man that was full of energy. That's why he was able to make the thumbnail this week. That pitching out that he had the other day. What was it? That was Saturday. Going out there pitching a complete game. Like, we don't see that often. I mean, no. the good thing, and I will use this to parlay really into the pitching, but the good thing about Severino is that he has shown the ability and the drive to want to go deeper into games. And we've been saying for the longest time, been harping on this in the offseason as well, that this team was going to go as far as the innings that were provided by the starting pitchers. Shout out to Severino for a complete. Shout out to Mendy for trusting this pitchers he has the entire season with going out there and providing said length. But huge outing by Sevy. Shout out to Sean Manaea, another gem today, and I believe 4 of his last 5. We acknowledge 4 of his last 5 outings. He's gone 7 innings. Like, this is what this team has needed. It's been a much needed break for the bullpen during those outings, especially from Manaea over the last month. So the pitching is the biggest question for this team moving forward, and we'll talk about the one dud that we must in a moment. But to those guys, shout out to them for what they've been providing, and hopefully that outing for Sevy on Saturday is going to re-spark him in a way from what we saw earlier in the year towards this back end of the season, where we're going to need him the most.
Keith confirming it is scheduled to be Severino and Cease
big
tomorrow.
One.
So
That's
should be a good
one.
matchup. Should be a good matchup. The Mets bombed Dylan Cease, and then he pitched a no-hitter like 2 starts later, I think. The Mets absolutely demolished him, and he's a quality pitcher. And then all of a sudden, he went back to his winning ways, to the nth degree. It's funny because we talked a lot about Severino. We talked a lot about Manaea to the positive. And we even talked about these hypotheticals of none of these guys are guaranteed to be here next year. And I made the case a couple shows ago. I said, hey, you could say that maybe Manaea makes the most sense to bring back. None of these guys, off of the pitching, I mentioned, we were talking about Harrison Bader in the conversation, those 3 guys, Bader, Severino, and Manaea. And I said, if you can only bring back one, I think I would bring back Manaea. Severino, an absolute beast. Love the emotion. Love what he did. Love what he's brought to this team. Not a knock on him at all, but I still stand by that, Ibby. I think that over the course of a contract, whatever it might be, a 3-4 year deal, I think Manaea is the smartest play, but I would not be surprised from what I've seen from Severino and his love of just pitching in New York in general, because it's the only place he's ever known is, obviously the Yankees and now the Mets, and just how much fun he's having here. I wouldn't be surprised to see both of those guys potentially brought back in some way, shape, or form. And it's simply because the Mets are going to need pitching. I know we have plenty left to do this season, but the Mets are going to need pitching. One of the things that I've been preaching in a different kind of scenario on Twitter the last few days is that no free agency is a foregone conclusion. So when people go, I don't want Severino, get me Corbin Burns. Okay, well, good luck. They're going to try, probably. People don't bring back, because I don't want to turn this into a Pete Alonso conversation. People are like, nobody needs Pete. Just go get Soto. Oh, okay. Let me just go get Soto, who's going to just sign maybe the most expensive free agent deal that Major League Baseball has ever seen. It's no foregone conclusion that you can get these guys. And sometimes, as we saw with Kevin Gausman and guys like that, you make them the most money, make them the offer with the most money, and they say no anyway. So, you can't just go, don't bring back Pete. Don't bring back Severino. Don't bring back this guy. Go be better. Yeah, of course, the goal is to get better. But you also have to understand that, the market goes how the market goes. So you can't just throw out any of these guys and go I don't want them. Yeah, they were good. He's got a 3.4 ERA. We need somebody with a 2.4 ERA. Yeah, obviously that would be better. You're not, you're not breaking new ground with that thought. So please, that said, let's turn our attention to the bad on the pitching side. And it has been real bad to the tune of an ERA over 8, Ibby. An ERA over 8 over his last handful of starts. I don't remember. They said on the broadcast last night. I don't remember if it was his last 5 starts, his last 7 starts. It's becoming pretty significant sample size for Jose Quintana, who, if the Mets didn't have a numbers game, his days would be numbered.
The one that I got, and maybe this is improper, but this is what I have. And of course, people know that I love messing around with logos and AI and things of that nature. So if there's one thing I've been doing a lot of this year, it's sending a lot of people to space on a rocket, because I've been tired of what they've been providing this team. And for the most part, the people that I do put on a rocket end up being shipped out of here at one point or another. So we'll see what happens with Jose Quintana. But as you can see, we're going to fly him to the moon. His last 7 starts, 6.27 ERA, 9 home runs, 36 hits, 19 walks, 35 strikeouts in 37 innings. Look, it has not been pretty. It has been frustrating to watch. It's been annoying to watch. What I harped on at the
graphic, I'm sorry to interrupt. Does that graphic you have, does that include yesterday?
That's a good question. I thought it did. I thought I got it this morning.
So the reason why I'm asking is because if his ERA is 6 whatever over the last 7 starts, then maybe what they said on the broadcast was his ERA is over 8 in the last 5 starts. That's what I think I remember. So either way, over 6 for everybody watching is bad. Over 8, also fucking bad. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's just been it's frustrating from my perspective, because I know we talked about this at the start of the season. We were talking bold predictions and we were saying opening day starters. And I was on here and I said, I think they're going to go with Jose Quintana, because I thought what he provides, or what I thought he would provide, is someone that is, no, it's not flashy, but it's get me over stuff. It's play good defense behind him. And hopefully he can provide some length while keeping the ball in the yard. But as you can see from those numbers, it has been very rocky all season. Yes, he's had stints here and there, but again, the last 7, looking at this is not doing anything that I said or thought that he would do in terms of providing length, keeping the ball in the yard, like all of it. It's a detriment to this team. And we keep on talking about, does this team have the horses to get to the end? Unfortunately, based off of the health of Kodai Senga, the health of Christian Scott, the probably not going to happen nature of a Brandon Sproat showing up. That's not going to happen in September, so I'm not banking on that either. And some of the other younger guys just not performing to come up and provide something, whether it was the Vassals, the Tidwells, the Hamels of the world, just not panning out the way that people thought that they would this point at least.
It would be great if Hamel or Vassal were doing anything in AAA at any point during this season, because they were, by all accounts, not the biggest upside pitchers, but they were the closest pitchers to the major leagues in terms of development that the Mets had in the minor leagues. And Ibby, I think we've gotten to a point with Quintana that if Hamel or Vassal did anything this year, even if it was 3 months ago, and right now they were on a downturn, the Mets would think about turning to them and trying to get something out of them at the major league level. But they've been so bad for the bulk of the season that it kind of doesn't even warrant. You're kind of just hoping that Quintana will figure it out because he's a vet, right? It's sort of the same logic I applied to the Jake Diekman, Joey Lucchesi conversation, where it's like, look, before the Mets DFA Diekman, it was like, look, you'd rather DFA Lucchesi because there's more of a chance that Diekman was going to figure it out, whatever that means, as a bullpen pitcher, than DFAing Diekman, turning to Lucchesi and throwing him in the bullpen and hoping for the best. I think that's kind of where the Mets are at right now with Quintana, where it's like they're just hoping that maybe he settles back down to that innings eater, to that guy who limits home runs and limits hard contact that you've been talking about and that we all wish he was. I think the Mets are just kind of hoping that happens. And look, you can't win a playoff spot. You can't win a pennant. You can't win a World Series on hope. But to your point, where else do they turn? Like, look, Rosie's saying it now. The Mets are stuck with Quintana, but shout out to Stephanie, who's also in the comments. She said it on Twitter, I think yesterday or the day before. It was yesterday because it was during his start. And I replied to it where it would be great to turn the page from him, but where would they even go? But let me ask you this question, and I'll ask it to the chat. I know we all said we were done with it, but it is getting dangerously close to me saying, you know what? Let's see Tyler McGill instead of Quintana. I know it's 6-1, half dozen in the other. This is not a fun conversation to have, but I pose it to the chat. Let me know if you'd rather see Tyler McGill make a start than Jose Quintana. And Ibby, what do you think? I know it's not fun. This is not exactly picking between DeGrom and Harvey in 2015. No. This is not, who would you rather have in their prime, Sandy Koufax or Tom Seaver? Yeah. But it's the conversation we have to have.
And I think Rosie just said it best. I'm not sure if there would be, any difference between the two or being any better. That's kind of where I am. But at the same time, because the options are so limited, it wouldn't shock me if they went that route and said, look, we're going to skip you this turn. We're going to give Tyler a start and see what happens, clear your head, whatever it may be. It could be something like that. I have a feeling it's not going to happen. I think that they're going to, again, stick with the veteran and hope that he can figure things out. And get back to his, regress back to his mean, if you will, as opposed to where he is right now, because he did have some, spurts of success throughout the season. So if this was of a different timeline, if you will, if we were in a different multiverse, if you will, and people didn't get hurt and people were available or prospects were thriving and, really putting the pressure on, I could see a change, but I think we're at a point where I don't think they're going to do it. And if we do see Tyler again, I think you're more likely to see him coming out of the pen, because I think that they would rather that as opposed to putting Quintana as a long man in the pen. I think that they would rather the velocity in the bullpen as opposed to the soft tossing lefty.
I'm going to jump into the comments here because a lot are flying in, people offering a ton of opinions on this matter, as I figured they would. First couple fun ones. Jeff Cohen before said, these cleats are made for walking. Sorry, Nancy Sinatra, with regards to Quintana. Then we have Armand saying, send Quintana into the sun with all caps and a lot of exclamation points. I think you mentioned TJ earlier. He is here now saying, shout out to Ibby's graphic department, which is my man. Yes, shout out to Ibby's graphic department, which is Ibby for everybody who doesn't know. We don't have that kind of budget, Mr. Nobody saying salute to the Quintana launch. And then Charlie kind of echoing what you said about the multiple timelines in the multiverse. Had Senga and Scott not been injured, Quintana might be DFA'd by now. I think he would. Honestly, I think I think there's a good chance. He has pitched in a way where a DFA is, I wouldn't say likely, because teams like to keep depth, especially in pitching, especially in starting pitching, but a DFA would not be knee-jerk at this point. Steph, who chiming in now on this matter, like she did on Twitter yesterday, saying, John, I like Tyler, but no, I'd rather try him in the bullpen and have Buto start. We can talk about that. It'd be the Buto part of it coming up in a second. Armand saying, in my opinion, Quintana should look at what Minaya has done, maybe pitch out of the stretch. There's something there, but, different kind of pitcher, different kind of stuff, but maybe, the arm angle and the positioning on the mound has made a huge paid dividends for Minaya, but also let's not act like Minaya wasn't already pitching better than Quintana. He's just taken it to a whole nother level. And then Jeff saying, McGill or Quintana, that is a decision for Stearns and Mendoza. I don't know if that's the emphasis that he meant this with, but that is the emphasis that I'm putting on it. That is, as the kids say, certainly a choice.
No, but I think that let's bring up the point that was said before about Buto and why I kind of skirted over it before, not even thinking about it, mainly because I think that where this team is in terms of the bullpen and what he's been able to provide, and the fact that it would take some time to get him stretched out as well, I think Jose Buto is going to be utilized as a weapon in the bullpen moving forward. I think that's what they're going to end up doing. If he goes back to being a starter, I think that's something they revisit in the offseason, spring training, and then going into next year when they're going to need starting pitchers, because like we've said before, so many guys are on one-year deals. You don't know who's going to come back. You don't know who you're going to sign, but Buto will be here. So that's something I think is more likely for them. I think right now that they know that he has been someone of great stature since going into the bullpen, and this team has needed somebody outside of Diaz to provide something for this pen. Yes, it sucks that, once they use him, it's usually more than an inning. So you get him, say, on a Monday, you don't see him again until Thursday. But I think that they're going to have a hard time taking him out because I don't think you can replace what he's provided to the bullpen. And you can't assume that taking him out and then being a starter and then plugging in a McGill that you're going to get the same results. So I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, I'll be rooting and hoping that it works out. But I just think that Buto is going to stay in the bullpen.
We talked about this in a lot of different ways over the last several weeks, going back to even before the trade deadline, because obviously there were implications there, right? Get a starter, that changes what you can do. Get a reliever, and the Mets got, like 4 of them. That changes what you can do. And where is Buto's role and where is McGill's role? And, going back to McGill, we've been talking about this for 2 seasons. I agree with you. I agree with Stephanie. I agree with a lot of the commenters. I've said it before. I think McGill's future on this team, if he has one, is out of the bullpen as a short inning reliever. And Ibby, I think with what Buto is showing us, and you just mentioned, I mentioned earlier, the Mets are not going to be able, they have all the money in the world. They can do whatever they want. But the Mets, it's not prudent for them to sign, 4 starting pitchers. The Mets, I think, are better off going big fish hunting, trying to get like a Corbin Burns, pairing him with Senga at the top of the rotation, making sure you bring back at least one of Severino and Minaya. Maybe you find a way to do both. But then I think you have to start looking in-house, whether it's Christian Scott, whether it's Sproat, whether it's Buto, whether it's whomever, to kind of fill out the 5th spot in the rotation, maybe even the 4th and 5th spots in the rotation. So I think McGill's future on this team, if he has one, is in the bullpen. I think Buto's future in this team, hopefully, is in the starting rotation. However, it's too late. There's like 35 games left. Yeah, I wouldn't play with that now. I think Carson brought it up a couple weeks ago where it's too late to kind of hope McGill adjusts to a bullpen role. And it's kind of too late to stretch Buto back out. And, this is a good one from Douglas Barnes, which is why I started really just stating a fact. But I think McGill went 7 his last start. Like McGill, if he did, and we can double check on that to make sure, because I'm not super privy to what he did in AAA. But if he did go 7, Ibby, that is one thing that Jose Buto literally can't do right now. He's not stretched out to go 7, and you're not going to have the opportunity to stretch him out to go 7. So I think for the rest of the season, even though it's counterintuitive or the antithesis of the long-term plan, I think for right now, the best thing to do is to keep Buto where he's at, even when Nunez gets back. And if you're going to use McGill, you're probably going to use him as a starter. And maybe you can stack him and Quintana. Maybe one guy starts, one guy is the bulk guy. Rosters are going to expand. So maybe you can do something clever there where you can carry an extra pitcher and it doesn't hurt you as much. But, I think we're looking at the team we've got. It's a little too late to try to plug and play these guys right now.
Yeah, and I just got confirmation looking from today's the 21st, August 19th. He went 7 2/3, gave up 4, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts. That's what he ended up doing. He generated 15 whiffs on those 11 strikeouts. His fastball topped at 97.4, but of course he gave up the 4 runs. So look, it's more likely that what we're saying that they're probably going to stay in the roles that they are for now because of the timing aspect. And again, what Buto's been able to provide for that bullpen, I don't think they're going to change things up. So unfortunately, and I think Ryan Finkelstein, former guest of the show, also said it best, when you're looking for other options, whether it is the McGills or even the Vassals of the world down in AAA, they're probably not that much better than what Jose Quintana is giving you. And I kind of agree with that. So I think they're going to try to weather the storm on this. And again, if they choose to piggyback off of him and not go as many times through the lineup. Maybe he goes through twice, and then you go into the pen, which sucks because then you're pulling from the pen. Or maybe they piggyback. Quintana starts with Buto, and he's gonna go longer. But then again, that kind of screws you for the rest of the week. There's as John said, as Jeff Cohen said, like this is on Mendoza and Stearns to figure out how they're going to make this work.
Well, and shout out to TJ here, who I think said this before I kind of alluded to it, but I was looking at the starred comments, not the live comments, and saying have Quintana come in as a bulk reliever after a righty starts, mix it up because what's happening right now ain't working. And that's kind of exactly along what I was saying. And Ibby, remember, you really just have to try to get through September. So yeah, you don't want to burn Buto on a Quintana start. But this is where my McGill comment starts to come to life because I don't think McGill is any better. I'm not sure he's going to give you anything better as a starter. But when the rosters expand and you have the ability to bring up another pitcher, bringing up McGill right now might make the most sense. Look, if Christian Scott is healthy, maybe Christian Scott makes the most sense. But I'm not sure how. I know he's throwing and I know he's doing stuff. I'm just not sure how much they're going to do that and how much they need to be careful with him. Yeah. So I think right now, like if the rosters expand September 1st, if the rosters expanded today, my solution would be call up McGill and have McGill and Quintana split the day, however you want. One starts, one is available immediately for relief. Whichever version you think is the slightly better guy coming out of the bullpen, go to that guy second, let the other guy start the game. Look, I agree, Stanley, like we've been talking about. McGill should be in the bullpen, but it's just long-term, yes. There's 38 games or whatever is left to be. It's just you can't do it now. And Rosie, you're right.
Yeah.
He's not been pitching great, so it's not a value add. It like Ryan said, like Ibby's been saying, like we're saying, but sometimes you just have to it's not a value add, but you got to try something new because the numbers for Quintana, I mean, Ibby's brought him up a bunch, and I'll bring him up here again. They are not good. That's some bad hat, Harry. That is bad news. So it's not great.
No, it's not. And then just thinking about would it be is there a universe where you ask Quintana to go 3 innings and then have McGill come out of the bullpen because he throws harder and say, hey, McGill, can you give us 3 innings? So then, between the two, you get 6 innings. It sounds like it's ridiculous that it sounds like a huge ask, but maybe that's something that could potentially work. If Quintana can give you 3 solid innings and then McGill comes out firing harder, maybe he can give you 3, and then you can go into the bullpen so it doesn't kill you completely on that given day, and that's how you piggyback it and make it work. But like TJ said before, what's happening right now with Quintana, it ain't it, brother. It ain't it.
It ain't it. Douglas Barnes making a good point. Doug saying this offense can put up 5 runs in a game, so if a starter can go 7 and give up 4, I'll take that, which is fair, right? If the offense is clicking on all cylinders, McGill and Quintana as a tandem don't have to be great. They just have to be better than one of them is by themselves. Right. Carson, also with a great point, McGill has pitched himself into AAA for a reason, for the rest of the season.
And for a reason.
But Quintana is, exactly. I just kind of inferred. But Quintana isn't usable anymore. You're stuck in the middle of having garbage rot every 5 days. He's created a massive hole. I mean, both of those things can be true, and it's not a great spot to be in.
It's to the point where you're basically every time that Quintana's on the bump right now, you have to go out there, and this is when the offense has to take over. You basically have to out-hit a garbage start. And it's tough. It's tough to put that much pressure on an offense. And even though we've talked, glowingly about how we think this offense can carry, it's on that day, it's you guys got to go out there. You got to score at least 6 or 7 runs.
That's also not the way an offense needs to operate with that kind of pressure.
Exactly. But it's that's kind of what Quintana's putting on this team right now. It's if they see him on the boat, it's they got to strap in and be ready. We got to put some numbers on the board because, the ball could be flying out tonight for the opposition. And again, you're facing 2 teams coming up that are red hot, and he's going to have a couple of starts. And, the ball flies, especially if he's pulling a start in Arizona, ball flies over there. That's an offense that's been chugging on all cylinders. So you got to be ready to score some runs when he's on the bump.
before we head into the break, we'll do it very shortly. But, Ibby, I do want to bring this up because I think it's relevant. I tweeted something similar, but I think it's important, especially in the midst of this Quintana conversation. You and I are both fans first, but, we have this platform and, people listen and people want to hear what we have to say. And we always say, though, I sort of coined it, but we both agree on this. Like, we'd rather be happy than right? We take no joy in, like, I take no joy in saying, oh, Brett Beatty's not good. Like, I feel that he's not good. I would love for him to be good, right? Yeah. Like, people are like, oh, John, what about McNeil now? Like, great. Please be good. For the love of Christ, don't hit 200. But to the people out there who are so quick to blindly support every single member of the team when it doesn't necessarily warrant it, and then they turn around and they're like, oh, look at this. Look how good. Like, remember when you wanted this guy off the team? It's like, yeah, and I still do. Broken clock is right 2 times a day, right? Like, a lot of us wanted Quintana off the team before the All-Star break. The same way a lot of us wanted Ottavino off this team since, Jesus, before he even got brought back on the team in the offseason. And then people are like, yeah, but look at his last 8 appearances. Okay, and look at Ottavino since those last 8 appearances. He's gotten bombed, right? You look at Quintana, and it's like, yeah, he did have an uptick in the middle of the season after a lot of us wanted him out there. And yes, all of their contributions matter, but what we're saying when people are calling for guys to not be a part of this team anymore, it's because you're looking at these guys who are on the wrong side of 35, who don't have good stuff, who don't have a tremendous amount to offer to a team that's trying to make the playoffs. Is that to say that they can never be good again? No, Ottavino had an 8-pitch inning the other day, and I made fun of him for it on Twitter, but you know what? It kept the Mets in the game, and the Mets got close. And were it not for a little bit of bad play and a fluke play on defense, the Mets go into that final inning with a little bit more, ability to maybe come back. But I just think that when you look at these guys who are, I'm not talking about prospects. I'm not talking about Beatty. I'm not talking about, when you look at guys who are 35, 36, 38 years old, like Quintana, like Ottavino, and some of us in May are like, you got to get this guy off the team. And maybe they have a good 6-week run in him in June, and it helps the team, and that's wonderful. But it doesn't mean that keeping them around was necessarily the right thing. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. To your point, I mean, for every situation that you just brought up between names like that, you have a rare case, which the Mets are very lucky this year, and having a 34, 35-year-old Jose Iglesias spark this team, and he's batting well over, he's batting like 380, and the song and the like, everything that he's brought to this team, like, that's not always the normal case. Like, that's very rare that something like that happens, that you can find a gem like that. But that's, shout out to David Stearns for bringing someone like that in, and it ends up working out. But it doesn't always work out, because that's, Stearns is the same guy that brought in Ottavino. And yeah, he had a decent outing this last time out, but I laughed at your tweet where you comped the one side being Captain America before he got the serum, and then after he got the serum, it's a completely different guy. And it's true, that carries weight when it comes to someone like him. And I already have one made with him on a rocket, so we'll see if that one comes. We'll see if that one comes to light.
We'll see. If Ibby's been wildly prophetic when it comes to sending people on rockets into space. That said, we're over 53 minutes at this point, so it seems like a good time to take a break. We also have over 100 people watching right now, so if you're watching, hit the like button. If you're watching on YouTube and you've never subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the show. We're 195 people away at the start of this show from 1,000, which would be a nice benchmark for us, something we've been trying to reach. And when we get there, there's something good in it for you, because one lucky person, just for subscribing, is going to walk away with an Edwin Diaz autographed baseball.
And that being said, I can see right now the numbers in front of me. I got 32 on the YouTube side, but only 23 likes. So again, make sure you like in the video. Make sure you subscribe. Once you subscribe, you are automatically entered to win a signed Edwin Diaz ball. The more subs we get, the faster we can get this moving along, the faster we can give it away. And of course, I have plenty of ideas for the rest of the year as well. But again, I'm not giving this one away because, again, it's personal collection. I won't give it away until we hit that number. So we have to keep on climbing. Sub the channel.
And yeah, if you are watching on Twitter or X, the break is the best opportunity to pop over and watch on YouTube and subscribe if you've never done that in the past. If you're stuck on Twitter and you want to retweet and you want to follow us there, of course, that's an option as well. But we're looking for subscribers on YouTube, and that's the only way you are going to get Ibby to part with a piece of his personal collection, which is an Edwin Diaz autographed baseball. That said, we'll head into the break. If you are watching for the first time ever, you're like, I don't want to sit through a break. Don't worry. It is just a quick 30-second ad spot that we need for the audio version of this show. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube and Twitter, courtesy of Brella Sports Network. We'll be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back with Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, and of course, everybody here in the live chat, an active participant in the show throughout the entire show. Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, jokes, heckles, all that stuff come in real time. But if you can't do that, you can always go back and watch anything you missed on our YouTube channel, which is why it's important to subscribe. First of all, if you subscribe and turn notifications on, you'll never miss the opportunity to know when we're going live, which is usually Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. But you'll also know, hey, I could jump back in there and I can watch the rest of the show. And if you can't do that, if you're more of a listener of the show, don't worry, because you can listen to the show wherever it is you get your podcast, starting about an hour, sometimes 2 hours after we're done with the live stream. Olivia does a great job of getting this edited and getting it posted across all podcast platforms. And we appreciate everybody that subscribes, whether it's audio, whether it's video. We appreciate everybody who tunes in live for over an hour each and every single week. Last couple of weeks, it's been closer to 2 hours. So we appreciate it. We absolutely do. However you choose to receive this show, Abby and I appreciate it. What were you going to say?
Shout out to the audio side as well. I've been getting some numbers coming in lately. And of course, we when I had Ant on, we talked about how we did top out at number 1 in Great Britain when it came to baseball podcasts, which was cool, being on just having that. Again, it was a fleeting moment, but still being number 1 over something like John Boy is really freaking cool. And I just got an update that we just climbed the charts in Canada now, and we are within the top. I think we're 180 in Canada. So now we're placing in other areas too. It's very cool to see things like that people are listening to us all over. So shout out to our fans in Canada.
Weren't we big business in Australia for a minute?
We were big business in Australia, and I think it's because you kept on saying Australia, so that the algorithm probably picked it up, and we were doing well over there. We've done well in places all over. It's wild to me that the people, like, I've gotten things for, I don't know if it was Brazil. I know we were big when it came to was it Nicaragua? There were so many different places that I get these updates for. I'm like, who the hell's listening to us over there? But like, shout out to all of you if you are. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Of course, we do. And, we want to connect with Mets fans and baseball fans wherever you might be in the world. And, for no reason at all, then I'll bring up this comment from Stephanie, who says that she tuned in from London, tuned in from London in the UK, London in the UK, part of Great Britain, London, yes. England is where she tuned in from. If the algorithm picks up where just based on me saying stuff, Ibby, TJ saying Ibby's boy Joey Votto carrying those Canadian numbers.
He's hanging out. He's listening to us. I love it.
Shout out to Toronto and Montreal and Edmonton, Alberta, Quebec, Saskatoon, bitch.
Oh my God.
All these places, just all over the great country of Canada. I've been to Vancouver. It's beautiful up there. Maple syrup is important. Canada's a great place. There's so many places that you can go to. Banff, Calgary. There's just so many places. And if the algorithm happens to pick that up, that's fine. That's totally fine. Ibby, before we move on and talking Armand saying, I tune in from a room with no windows. I love that. Yeah, Patrice, did someone say London?
Yes,
Because
London.
you know, it's tricky because when you talk about places in the world, you know, there are places that have the same name, right? So, you know, there's London, England in the United Kingdom, but then there's also a London, Ontario in Canada. You know, so when you want to be very specific about how you address these places. Okay, before we move on, a quick word from our friends over at Independent Safes.
Of course, big time shout out to Independent Safes. And of course, they're always protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes. Fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit independentsafes.com today for security that stands strong. And as always, you spend $99, which is what you're going to do on the lowest of ends when it comes to anything over at Independent Safes. You got free shipping. Tell them Til Mets sent you. As always, I have it linked within the description of this video, as well as the top comments once this video posts to YouTube for everyone to see afterwards. That'll be in there as well. So visit independentsafes.com today and tell them Til Mets sent you.
Absolutely. And of course, shout out to our friends over at MANSCAPED. It's in the corner of the screen for the entire show, but we got to give them extra special love right now and full screen it because you can still get 20% off and free shipping site-wide. Go to manscaped.com. Check out everything that they have to offer. It doesn't matter if it's the Lawnmower 5.0. It doesn't matter if it's the beard trimmer. It doesn't matter if it's the ball bomb. It doesn't matter if it's the underwear. They have a ton of great stuff for you to check out. And site-wide, you'll get 20% off your entire order, whether you order one thing, 100 things, you get 20% off the entire order, and you get free shipping. And that is all courtesy of us here at Til Mets Do Us Part. So use the code TMDUP for Til Mets Do Us Part. And of course, I just have to mention, when I mention all those products, like I do every, you may not think you're a Manscaped kind of person. I like my body hair the way it is. Just check them out. And if you're going to check them out anyway, you might as well do it with free shipping and 20% off, especially if you're unsure. That's the thing. Like I'm the kind of guy, I like to shave my arms to show off my tattoo. You know, I've got the Manscaped beard trimmer. I've got a beard. You know, they have scalp shavers. They have the shavers that are skin safe. They sent one to me and Ibby. I do not travel without it. It's important. I like to buzz my chest hair. That's me. That might not be you, but you can check out the stuff because they have some amazing things. I know that Steph usually chimes in and says, yes, exactly. I was hoping that she would. Guys, manscaping isn't just for your self-care. Your woman will appreciate it too.
Of course, and shout out to Armand for this one as well. Sir Anthony Dominguez reps Manscaped because Alvian Winker took his balls deep and gone. LFGM. I love that one. It's a good one. So I wanted to bring it up real quick.
And you know what? They looked pretty fucking smooth doing it too, didn't they?
That they did. That they did.
Oh, man. Okay. Ibby, there's a lot of places we can go with the next, I don't know, whatever it's going to be, half hour, 40 minutes, as much as we do here in this show. So I think it's best to sort of look ahead a little bit now.
Yeah.
And not far into the future. Obviously, there's not that much of the season left, God knows, to kind of, look down the road. But with this big road trip that is going to start in two of the most difficult places that it could start in, San Diego and Arizona, and then it's going to theoretically, don't get mad at me, people in the chat, theoretically lighten up when they go to south side of Chicago and play the abysmal, miserable White Sox. But it's a long trip, Ibby, and it's another trip that takes you through several time zones, and it's another trip that bounces you around the country after the Mets just came from a road trip that bounced them all over the country. So, before we talk about, specifics of the series with the Padres or whatever, which is the first one, what are your sort of expectations? What are you looking for? Obviously, if the Mets win a series with the Padres and win a series with Arizona, that's wonderful. But apart from the obvious there, what are you looking for out of this road trip? Because like I said at the top, it could be season defining.
I'm looking for a team that, like I've been saying, that carry over from what we saw in this series. I know the second game was ugly and it kind of got away from them with the error and everything, but they still looked as though that they were a team that belonged. And obviously the walk-off wins, that those carry a lot of energy and whatever. But they looked as though, again, like they've done all season, they've played up to opponents. And like I said before, Baltimore is one of the better teams in baseball this season. Now, you need to do that over these next 7 games. So I'm looking at this and saying, yes, of course, I want them to win both series. I think it's 4 with the Padres and then 3 off day, then 3 with Arizona. So
that is correct.
So you have it where you're looking at it and going, okay, what's the best case scenario in that? Well, any Met fan will be like, yeah, I want them to win all the games and go 7-0. But again, let's think a little bit more rationally here. If you split with the Padres, you go 2-2, and then you take 2 or 3 from Arizona, I think that's very successful. But what I need to see this series specifically, the offense has to be consistent for the next week. It has to be consistent because, again, I still have my reservations when it comes to this pitching. Outside of really, at the moment, it's Manaea. I know Sevy's coming off of the big game, but really, outside of Manaea, I have a lot of questions when it comes to the starting staff. And because of that carries a lot of weight on the bullpen as well, which has been shaky in the majority of spots. So really, I need the offense to be consistent so it allows a little bit of wiggle room for said starting pitching and then not put as much pressure on the pitching overall, including the bullpen. So I need the offense to be firing on all cylinders over this next week because I think that's going to go a long way. The pitching is obviously the biggest bugaboo for this team right now and what they're going to provide moving forward. But if the offense can provide the protection, it gives you, like I said, some wiggle room to escape, if you will, some spots or even win some games that you're not supposed to win because we all know it's better to be lucky as opposed to good sometimes. And I think you're going to need that on this trip because these teams are rolling right now.
Jump back into the comments here. Carlos Ortiz saying good competitive baseball. I think it's very simple, but I think he's exactly right. Like
it's what they just did.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Look, and again, they had a bad play. You could argue whether or not that play cost the Mets the game. It cost the Mets the ability, I think, to come back because they went from 2 runs down to 4 runs down late, and it was kind of crushing. But I really don't think the Mets were going to win that game. But other than that, outside of that, the Mets played good competitive baseball. And if they do that, they've shown that they can play with anyone. Carson saying, don't choke or you're losers. No pressure.
Fair enough.
Basically saying the same thing as Carlos said, but in a very Carson manner. Charlie saying we need to take care of business in San Diego and Arizona and then really take care of business against the juggernaut that is the Chicago White Sox. Can't play down to them.
Like we've said, though, like it would not shock us if this team rolls out and, again, splits or wins 3 or 4 against the Pods, takes 2 or 3 from Arizona, comes home, lays an egg against Chicago. Like it would not shock any of us. But yes, Charlie, I agree with you. We cannot let that happen.
Well, they are playing Chicago in Chicago.
I'm sorry, in Chicago, but still, I don't care where you're playing. Like no one's going to be there, so you should be able to handle business.
Yeah, you should. Like Chicago is so bad that like you have to wonder like how many people can you and I organize from this chat that would play them tough? You know what I mean? Like how many people could we find, a 26-person roster that would give them a game? And the answer is maybe. TJ saying got to score runs, can't have another series like the Mariners. Team is due for sustained offensive outbursts, which hasn't happened since July before the All-Star break. Very good points all around there 100%. From TJ. I think everybody's right. This is a good one for Mr. Nobody. You can't leave men on base with these teams.
Yes, that's going to be the biggest thing. Yeah,
have to
cash in.
Have to capitalize, and because like everybody is agreeing. You know what? Darren said this earlier at the top of the show, and I think it kind of goes into this conversation too. Yeah. 2 comments. Even if they don't make the playoffs, as long as they keep playing hard and showing fight, it's a good omen for things to come. I would say that they've done that to this point, and they need to do that here in these upcoming series. Yes. And then the second comment he said was, I don't think they have enough starting pitching to sustain a playoff berth. I hope I'm wrong, but Quintana's lackluster performance makes me question their chances. And the reason why I bring those up now is because most of the time, Ibby, like everybody has agreed, the starting pitching is up and down. It is not good enough to consistently carry this team. So you cannot consistently leave guys on base. You could have a bad inning here or there. You could have an inning where, things go real weird and Starling Marte, who's hit the ball hard, he strikes out on 3 pitches, has a bad at-bat against the guy who's throwing hard and doing some good things. You could do that once, maybe, in a game. You can't do that 3 times in a game, 4 times in a game, like they were making a habit of doing prior to this series. So you have to try to capitalize because we saw how quick it turned. I don't like David Peterson as a pitcher. I think he's been lucky, but look, he's been good, so I'm not going to complain. But you saw what happened. He has one bad moment, gives up the lead. Sean Manaea, who's been terrific, we talked about him in the first half, he has one bad moment, gives up the lead. Good teams are going to make you pay. If you're the Mets and you want to play with the good teams and you want to show you're a good team, you have to make teams pay also.
100% spot on. Like I really think that it's why I said this team needs to be consistent. Runners in scoring position has been a problem for this team for a while now. And yes, if you cannot capitalize, if you're going to roll out and go 2 for 10 in a game that's that's against the Padres or the Diamondbacks with runners in scoring position, and you leave a treasure trove of runners on base threat, like they are going to not only beat you, they're going to embarrass you. And when something like that happens, that can really crush morale because we know that these are the teams that are in front of you. These are the teams that you have to go out there and handle and show that you belong. There's a lot of mental to this as well. There really is. And if they can't perform offensively against these teams, I think it's going to really going to sink this team. So that's why I'm saying the offense really needs to show up over the next 7 games because, like you said, I really think this is going to tell where the season's going to end up.
Well, Ibby, we've been trying very hard lately to, and it's kind of been self-imposed by me, because I've been the biggest culprit of this. But we've been trying hard to not turn every week into the Pete Alonso show.
Right.
But I think it warrants talking about here in this instance. And forget about the future, forget about the offseason, forget about where things are going to go and how things are going to play out, how they should play out and all that stuff. We can talk about that, and I promise that we will, hopefully in early November, but when the season is over for the Mets. But maybe it's before that, right? We'll get to that stuff. But as it plays into what we're talking about right now, here's a very direct one from TJ. How about Pete makes some money on this trip and swings the bat and has the ball go over the wall? We've talked about it last week. They've talked about it on the broadcast. Pete has not had a hot streak all season. It's a great time to do it. Can Pete get hot for 40 games? Yeah. He can. We've seen it before. We've seen it. And you know what? It's going to help Pete. And to credit of people like Keefe, who's been saying it, Jolly Olive has been saying it, where this contract, all this stuff, I've said it, you've said it, it's looming over his head. And some of that stuff is unfortunate because not everybody goes out there and has the walk year that you would hope. Not everybody is Judge. Not everybody is Soto. And even lesser players than Judge and Soto have had massive walk years. Some guys don't perform in a walk year the way that you want them to. But Conforto. Yeah, exactly. Conforto. But you look at it, and EJ's point, it helps the Mets. Forget about Pete's future with the Mets. It helps the Mets singularly this season, and it helps Pete for his career to get hot. Like Jeff's saying it, Pete needs to get hot. Time for him to carry the team. It is. And the other comment that I was going to bring up, and this was not mentioned specifically, but we all know what Charlie's talking about here. Once they get on base, they have to stop running themselves off base.
Yes.
Some bonehead base running I've seen lately has been awful. Look,
Yeah.
you and I made a promise on this show to not be super reactionary, to not be immediate. And it's harder to do that when we record immediately after a Mets game as we have the last 2 weeks. But Ibby, everybody has said Pete is in his head.
Yes.
And you cannot say after watching Pete get thrown out going from first to third on a ball hit to left field that Pete is not trying to do too much. Somebody posted these stats. Pete is like the 10th worst base runner statistically based on all the metrics that measure it in Major League Baseball. He's the 4th worst base runner in the National League. And part of that is because he's not fast, right? Part of that is it's not his fault. It's because he's limited physically. He doesn't have that tool. But God damn it, what we saw today does not help. And you can't sit here and tell me that that guy is not in his own head. I wouldn't want my fastest guy on the team going from first to third on that play. Do you know how short the throw is from medium deep left field to third base?
Yeah. Again, it's trying to do too much because he realizes he's not providing in other areas, so he wants to do something. But it's like, I understand, but at the same time, you have to know your limitations and you have to know better situational baseball. Like, that's basic fundamentals. Or like that's something that you should not do, especially someone of your ilk when it comes to base running. Like, it's crazy to say this, and I know that your bold prediction is going to end up being 100% true. I can't remember off the top of my head, but when it comes to looking for offense and providing, look, if there's been someone that has been, look, he's had his ups and downs here and there, but Mark Vientos, man, like, you're looking for power, you're looking for all these things. Mark Vientos has been someone that has been able to do those things, which is kind of, in a way, covered for Pete a little bit. But again, it would be a lot better if we had both of those guys, because we've been saying forever, imagine if Pete had another power hitter behind him. Well, he kind of does now, and he's doing awesome. Mark Vientos, shout out to him with some quick stats. The fact that he hits his 20th home run today, and he is second with at least minimum of 200 at-bats to Rafael Devers for third base in terms of, let me pull it up real quick. It's a 546 slugging percentage, which is second, which is what he has, and his weighted run created plus at 147. Again, when you're second to only Rafael Devers in baseball, you're doing a damn good job. So he's doing his job. He's doing what's needed. But yes, this team needs to be complete for once. Complete everywhere when it comes to people running on all cylinders. Lindor has been kicking ass. Nimmo, we hope, is starting to wake up a little bit. We still need him to get back to where he was. Vientos is providing. Maybe that home run and what's been going on lately with Alvarez, it starts to spark him a little bit. Like, you got to get everything moving again. But Pete is at the central part of that. Pete, we need you. This is it. Forget everything else right now. And I know it's hard because it's easy for me to say because I don't have the pressure of millions upon millions of life-changing dollars over my head. I get that. But again, these next 40 games, you have been someone that has said forever how much you are the New York Mets, how you are and want to be a New York Met, that you are New York, the polar bear, everything. Well, these next 40-plus games, man, this is your time to shine. This is it. This is crunch time. And for someone who has, by the metrics, the worst numbers with runners in scoring position, basically everyone's written you off right now. Nobody expects anything from you. So to borrow that from JD, who said during that famous team meeting that turned things around, hey, no one's expecting anything of us. So let's just go out there and play ball. Well, Pete, at the moment, no one's really expecting anything from you, pretty much because everyone assumes that you're just going to roll over, hit into a double play, strike out, pop up. So go up there, relieve yourself in that sense, and everyone's going to think, no one's thinking anything of you. So just go out there and be Pete Alonso. That's it.
One of those people who's not thinking anything, and I'm using that as a segue not to throw shots at Pantries here, saying, sorry, guys, I'm not sure if I believe Pete to get hot. He's had all year, and so far, nothing. He's had a couple of good days, but that's it. But yeah, you're right. You're spot
100%.
on, right? And I'm not saying Just like, last week when I was like, I'm not telling you guys the Mets are going to make the playoffs. I'm just saying there's too much in front of them to write things off with every loss. That was last week. It's the same thing with Pete. It's like, I'm not telling you this is going to happen. I'm telling you it's what the Mets need. So when Jeff Cohen and some other people are calling for this, it's not to say that you're wrong, Pentrice, because right now to this point, you're spot on correct. And he hasn't given you much reason to believe that it's going to happen, save for the fact, let me say this. He hasn't given you much reason to believe that this could happen this year. Over the course of Pete's career, he has the track record of somebody who can get hot for 30 or 40 games, hit a bunch of home runs, and put a team on his back. He has shown that in his career.
He has. So,
he has not shown it this year at all.
Which is crazy, just to throw it real quick, just use it as a piggyback, saying how you don't believe that it can happen this year. It does feel, and I felt this way, I talked about it when I did the show at Ant, like it feels as though it's just, we're treating Pete the same way we treated last year. Like I thought of our shows last year, how we always thought this is it. Like this is where the team's going to spark and turn it. No, now this is it. Like this happened. Like they're gonna wake up, and they never did. It feels as though, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. It feels as though that Pete just isn't going to wake up, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to be right. I just gave that whole speech before. Like that's what I want from the guy, and I think that everyone assumes that he's not going to do anything. So if no one expects anything of you, go out there and just go out and just play ball. Like that's it. But maybe he's in his head way too much. I'm not sure, but it does. So I'm not, I have to agree with Pentrice where it's like, you know what? We keep on saying maybe, but we did the same thing last year too for this team overall. And it never clicked. And maybe it won't for Pete, but we're, like we said, we'd rather be happy as opposed to right, or we'd rather be wrong as opposed to being right. I hope that he can provide. But again, we have to see it. And these next 7 games are going to be big for him.
Jump back into the comments here. A couple good ones, some humor attached to them too, but good comments nonetheless. TJ saying Pete runs with his belly out, just like my 3-year-old daughter. And I know Winnie is faster than him first to third. And he knows that. Why? Because he makes her run the bases with a stopwatch. And that, my friends, is good parenting. I don't know that to be true, but I really hope it is, TJ. I really hope that you do that. This is a really good one from Douglas. He doesn't have to be a good base runner if he hits the ball over the freaking wall.
That's your job.
No one ever gave a fuck if Pete Alonso was a good base runner when he was hitting 45 home runs a year. You hit 28 home runs, all of a sudden you got to be a more well-rounded player.
Everyone's complaining, though, where it's like, oh, he's batting 218, he stinks. Yeah, but he hit 40 homers. Now he's batting, 250? And everyone's like, oh, he's not hitting more home runs. He's not that good of a player. It's like, yeah, well, you bitched him, Mo, when he hit 218. Now he hits 255, and you're still bitching. Let's realize that batting average isn't everything. It's not.
That was always my thought with productivity. Ibby, was, when you can't throw these guys away and you can't throw these numbers away and you can't, if listen, 45 home runs is great, but if Pete would hit 45 home runs and 120 RBI like he's doing, but also hit 270, then he'd be one of the best players in the world, and he's not. He wants to get paid like Aaron Judge. No, he doesn't. First basemen don't get paid like Aaron Judge unless they're Albert Pujols in his prime. If you're going to hit 330 and 48 and 130 every year, then you'll get paid like Aaron Judge as a first baseman. That's not Pete Alonso's game. It never has been. Also, spoiler alert, if Pete Alonso was going to hit 270, he's not going to hit 45 home runs. He's probably going to hit 60 fucking home runs. He's not going to knock in 120. He's probably going to knock in 150. Do you realize how big of a jump it is to go from 220 to 270 with that kind of power? He's not going to hit 270 sprinkling in a bunch of singles. That's not how baseball works. Not every player has that profile. So you're spot on. Douglas is spot on. Would that be great? Yeah, it would be great. That's not who Pete Alonso is. It's not who he ever was. And this is a good one from Douglas too. Pete has all the protection in the world this year, and he hasn't been able to handle the pressure he put on himself. We've been begging and pleading for the Mets to give Pete legitimate protection. They did it in the form of JD Martinez. They did it in the form of an emerging Vientos, to a lesser degree, an emerging Alvarez. They did it in the form of, I know he hasn't been here a lot this year, but Starling Marte has hit over the course of his time in the lineup. They did it in the form of going out and getting Jesse Winker. And I understand he hasn't hit for power, but he's hitting over 300 as a Met. It hasn't been one guy. It's been a combination of guys, but they have given him all the protection you could possibly want. Sometimes with power, sometimes with on base, sometimes with batting average. They have put legitimate hitters behind him more often than not all season, even to the point of moving Pete around the lineup. Yep. And he hasn't come through. And that is a great point. And there's another great one from TJ before I bounce it back to you. The RBI leaders on the team are Lindor and Nimmo, which means shout out to the bottom of the order that has been very good all year. Yep.
Harrison Bader.
Yep.
Harrison Bader, baby. But yeah, I know we always diverge and we end up getting lost in this Pete conversation week after week. But, as we get closer and closer to the offseason, it's going to keep on getting louder and louder. But yeah, it's frustrating, man. I think that the worst thing, and I said it last week, I'll just repeat, the worst thing that he could have done was turn down. And I know why he did, because you want to bet on yourself. But again, how much money is too much money in the end? But when you turn down, 7 years, $157 million, whatever it was, and to then start slow and then start seeing that number in your head that you turned down go down, 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 and working so hard to tirelessly put pressure on yourself to bring it back up, 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 and beyond. It's it's just like anyone at a job. If you want a raise, if you're working bad at whatever you do, and seeing how you're not making what you want, the amount of pressure you put on yourself, and now you have to go out there and hit a fastball that's coming in at 105 miles an hour. It's not easy, but it sucks because it's not what we thought Pete was going to provide. It's great that we've been getting more offense from other people, which is great for this team moving forward. But again, Pete's still here, and we need Pete to be Pete.
Yeah, and it's funny because we'll never really know the answer to this. You and I, maybe we'll find out, 15 years from now. But when Pete turned down that reported extension, right? And we don't even know, in fairness,
we don't even know if it's true. We don't
even know if that extension is real. We're just going off of reliable sources that are connected
Joel
to
Sherman.
The reported extension. If Pete turned that down, I would love to know if it was, and I don't think it was, if it was turned down with a reasonable counter offer, or if it was just turned down. I would imagine that it was just turned down because that is the Boris way, or it was turned down with a unreasonable counteroffer. No, we don't want 7 years, 158. We want 10 years, 300. You're not going to get that. That's not going to happen. He knows it's not going to happen, but he's going to ask for the moon. The reason why I bring that up, Ibby, is because I don't think, coming off of the years that Pete has had, and I've said this to you on this show, so I'm going to be consistent here. I don't think that was a reasonable extension, a market value extension for Pete to sign. I think Pete is probably more in the 175 to 200 to 225 on a high water mark after last season, not taking in anything he's done this season into account. I think Pete could have asked for more, but I don't think you're going to get, I want 250. Well, dude, we offered you 158. We're not giving you $100 million more. But maybe there was a middle ground of 175, 185, even dare I say 200 million, which would have been more than Goldschmidt, would have been more than Freeman, would have been more than Olsen. He would have reset the market for first baseman. Maybe there is a middle ground that they could have arrived at. And I think it's unfortunate. But again, to Douglas's point from a couple weeks ago, can't blame Boris because nobody made Pete hire Boris. Pete just did that on his own accord. But I think it's unfortunate when you do get in bed with a guy like Boris because he puts the dollar value over everything else. And maybe with a different agent, maybe they say, look, 7/158, not enough. We want to beat the highest paid first baseman in the game. We're younger than this guy, younger than that guy. We've been better than this guy. We'll do it for 8/170. And maybe 8/170 gets it done, and Pete has a Pete year. So that's the stuff that we'll never know, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still very unfortunate.
Overall, it really sucks. And TJ's right here, because again, no matter what we say here, no matter what, Pete's only one hot 6-week stretch away from all of us dressing like polar bears for Halloween in our wild card number 3 shirts. It's true. But can it happen? That's the biggest question. I don't know if it can. And it's unfortunate. It sucks because it's one thing to say it's the pressure. It's another thing in thinking that, is he just going the way that a lot of elite power hitters go and things just fall off a cliff a lot sooner than you thought it would?
Maybe
it very well could be that. You've seen the advanced numbers, how they've gone down year over year. And maybe it's all just, crumbling down now. Could be that. It could be, but we'll never know. Maybe one day we'll know when it comes to the contract and everything. But when you hire Boris, no matter what Pete says, when you hire Boris, everyone knows why. And you too, know why you hire Boris. You want money. And that's why it's hard to listen to the rah-rah, I'm a Met, this and that, because it's like, you hire Boris, you want money. That's what it is. And maybe it's as simple as him looking at Nimmo and that was it. Maybe.
Right.
But again, a lot of times you hire Boris, you want money. And I joked about this in our chat, and we lost John. I joked about this in one of our Mets chats that, seeing Chris Bryant in a Rockies jersey is just so disheartening because it just looks like a guy that's sold out. He doesn't play as well anymore. He's not as good. He's always hurt. He's cashing the check, and it's just not working out. But, I said, sadly enough, because he's a Boris client now, I could see Pete being that guy, whether it's a Mariners jersey, a Rockies jersey, a Cubs jersey, whatever it may be. It would be hard. And I'll fill you in, John. I was just saying, the idea with Pete going with Boris, it's almost as a lot of guys always sell out. And the idea that I was joking about in our Met chat was, seeing Chris Bryant when they were facing the Rockies in that Rockies jersey just looked and again, he's not he's washed up in terms of age, but just seeing him, it's just man, this guy used to be the man. And now he's just looks like a sellout. He looks weird in that jersey. It just doesn't seem right. And I'm saying imagine Pete in a Mariners jersey, in a Giants jersey, just not providing that offense, hitting 25 homers a year, but he got the contract that he wanted. It's but that's the Boris way. Get as much money as you can. If that's what you want, God bless you. Javi Baez, same thing. God bless you. You got your money, but I can't feel bad for you because you stink now because you made $160 million. So God bless.
Yeah.
But
apologies, by the
way it goes.
Apologies. I don't know what happened. It just said something went wrong with StreamYard and I got booted out. My internet didn't kick out. I don't know what happened. It lost connectivity in StreamYard and I was gone. And then I clicked retry and it took a couple seconds and it popped me back in. So sorry to you. Sorry to the fans. I hope it didn't disrupt the connection. I don't think it does because you and I both are signed in with admins. So I don't think we lose anything there. And Ibby, it's funny because I wanted to bring up this comment from Mr. Nobody. I keep saying not to do this, but I'm the biggest culprit of it, but it's true. He, meaning Pete, still has numbers that can't be easily replaced. And that is the one caveat to all of this conversation that we're having. It goes back to what I said before with regards to there being no certainties in free agency. I have long been a Pete Alonso defender and a defender of the Mets bringing him back. I will be the first to admit that he has not made defending him easy because he's not been good. The advanced metrics, like you said, point to a guy who might be in decline. The fact that he is putting so much pressure on himself, not producing at the level that we would like him to do. The fact that he has been bad with runners in scoring position. I understand all of that. But It is hard to replace those numbers. And if you want to shoot big and you want to get Santander, fine. If you want to shoot bigger and you want to get Soto, great, fine. You should try to get better. And if you get one or both of those guys, I'm not going to be upset if Pete walks and you go in a different direction at first base. But you have to replace it. And look, this comment came in earlier, and it's true, and he deserves his flowers from Brad. Vientos has been raking. He has absolutely been murdering the ball. That's true. He has 20 home runs and like 250 at-bats. And Ibby, that does project to about 40 home runs, right? Over the course, maybe more, over the course of a full season. But projections don't necessarily mean you're going to do it. And again, Pete Alonso has hit 40 home runs in a season. 40. Not many Mets have done that. He's hit 50. Nobody's done that. You know, he's done these things that people haven't done. And cosmically, none of us are quote unquote irreplaceable, right? But the power output is to this point irreplaceable. And you just have to be careful for what you wish for. The Mets are better with Vientos over the course of a full season, hitting 35 home runs and having Alonso in the lineup too, hitting 40. And if it's not going to be Alonso, having Soto hit 40. And you can't just say, oh, just do this. Oh, just do that. Oh, just go get this player. Oh, just go get. It's not that easy. So you just have to be careful. I'm not trying to defend him. I'm just saying, don't be reactionary and don't think with your think with your head, think logically of what you've seen over your entire life watching baseball and understand that it's not easy to replace those numbers.
It's not. And again, we'll see what happens in the offseason in terms of how they're going to go about this. I've said last week I'd be shocked if he comes anywhere close to what he was offered and turned down. I think he's looking more along the lines of 5 years now. Maybe if he's lucky, 125 million. But I also wouldn't be shocked. Look, there's always someone who's desperate for offense. Like, I could definitely see him with how Seattle's been playing and the fact that they have no offense and the pitching's been great. And they might say, look, we can get a power hitting first baseman to come in. But at the same time, they have some guys down low that are projecting to be top end prospects that they might say, no, we'll spend our money elsewhere instead.
And they don't have the Mets money. So
right. And they don't have the Mets money. So it's like, they can't do both, but I wouldn't be shocked if someone does come in and overpay and give him what he wants or what he's comfortable with. But I don't think the Mets are really bent over a barrel here. Like, I think they control everything. And if they want to, they can. And if they don't want to, they're not going to have to, because there are options that they could go to. But like you said, those options are far from a given, because there's going to be plenty of suitors for someone like a Santander. It's plenty of suitors, well, high-end suitors for Soto, where it's like you're going to pay a lot of money. But when you play that game also, you are also use this leverage to get the money that you want to go to where you want to go, i.e. Kevin Gausman, as well as Yoshinobu Yamamoto this past year. So it's not always a given. So it's going to be very interesting to see watch pan out. But hopefully, as T said in the chat, hopefully in 6 weeks' time, we are wearing polar bear Halloween costumes with our Wild Card 3 shirts, because he went on a run. It starts now, these next 7 games. Pete, do some work, man. Let's go.
Absolutely. This is a good one from Douglas. And this is not even, I agree with you here. This is a good show of temperance and patience and being in the best interest of the team. He says projections aren't a guarantee, but neither is the past. Pete, this year is a glaring example that the past isn't automatic. It's a good point. That's why you have to, it's a very difficult juggling act to say, like, okay, Vientos is younger and we can move in that direction. But again, you do have to replace the Pete production somewhere. And if Pete's a 50 home run guy, 45 to 50, that's very difficult to replace. If Pete's a 25 to 35, that's less difficult to replace. And this one from Darren, Pete may not have had his most productive offensive season, but I would rather him defensively at first over Vientos, who I don't think will be as adept scooping balls out of the dirt. I don't know about the second part about the scooping the balls, Ibby, but I said something similar on Twitter. I think for everybody who is talking about Vientos, just moving to first base like it's automatic. And I don't care if your plan is to put Beatty there, Ronnie Mauricio there, to sign Chapman, to sign Bregman. I don't care. To me, Ibby, I think you're making a mistake. I think that Mark Vientos is the third baseman.
And if we are going to talk about scooping balls, let's just make sure that we are using our crop preserver, which of course is our ball deodorant. And of course we have our crop soother, which is our ball aftershave lotion. So just make sure if you are scooping balls or whatever you want to do in your free time, make sure you're protecting yourself when it comes to Manscaped. But yes, I think I said before to somebody, I think that Mark Vientos' future is a DH. I don't think he is. Look, he's doing a fine job. He's doing enough because the offense is providing. And if push comes to shove and you can't make him a DH because you signed somebody else and he's your best option for third base or wherever it is you want to play him or at first, whatever it is, as long as the offense is there, you make the sacrifice. But I still think his future is just it's bat first. It's bat first no matter what. So
I disagree.
You disagree?
I do. Yeah.
You think he's going to be a well enough to play defense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
that's fine.
I used to agree with you. I used to agree. He has shown me enough. I don't know that he'll ever win a Gold Glove. I don't think he can make a leap like that. But I think that he has done enough. He's made enough routine plays. He has an incredibly strong arm.
The arm helps.
The arm at third base makes
helps.
up for a lot of ills. And he's made some incredible plays. So I think with more time there, I think he can be more than adequate at third base. And I also just think at this point, it is unfair. And you could say life's not fair, sports aren't fair, baseball's not fair, whatever. I think it's unfair to take third base away from him with what I see as not a lot of great options to go to. Okay. I don't think Beatty is good, so I'm removing him immediately. Mauricio, I think has potential, but he's coming off of a lost season and 2 surgeries on his leg. We don't know what that's going to be. I don't like Bregman. I think he's a lost cause. I think his last good year was in 2019, and I wouldn't overpay for Matt Chapman because I think he's going to make a lot of money. So, I don't think that your third base options are great. So I would rather have Vientos play third, and I would rather, if Pete's not going to be here, I'd rather go get a first baseman. That's how I feel about that. Breaking news from Armand. Joey Votto has announced his retirement. Ibby might have to leave.
Oh man. I just see that he posted a video. I'll watch it after the fact, but
if Ibby watches this video live, he will cry.
No, I love Joey Votto. I know this is a Mets show, and he was a Cincinnati Red, but Joey Votto was one of the best hitters of this generation. It's a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Shout out to him. I'm more upset that he didn't get to have like a walk year, like a lot of other players have been afforded. I know it didn't make sense for him to stay in Cincinnati because of their youth movement. I'm not faulting them for that, but it does suck that it didn't really pan out for him in Toronto with injuries and stuff. But man, it sucks. But I love you, Joey. Hell of a career. First ballot Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Joey Votto, yeah. TJ, yes, the fact that I saw Ibby's live reaction has made my day. I was making what I like to think was a good point. And Ibby, I could tell the moment if we could rewind it, I could tell the moment when Ibby stopped listening was when he saw that. So, honestly, no, it's okay. I agree with you. Joey Votto had a great career. I think Joey Votto should be a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Fame votes are weird and people don't really like parts of his game for some reason, which I think is nonsense. And you know what? We'll try to get Joey Votto on the show. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I'll do my best.
That would be incredible. Again, the reason why Votto is so great is because and this is why baseball sucks in general. He's one of the funniest guys and one of the greatest interviews and everything, but you would never know that because baseball doesn't know how to market and they don't put things out there. But it's a shame that not a lot of people got to see the charisma and the funny nature of his game as well. But yeah, shout out to you, Joey. You're the fucking man, and happy retirement.
Absolutely. Happy retirement. This is two interesting ones back to back as I just finished my point. Bregman now has an elbow injury and might not play third for the Astros for the rest of the season, adding to the fact that I wouldn't touch Bregman with, a 47 and a half foot pole, whatever they say in the Grinch. And then this one from Game for War, I think it's a good point on two ways. I'm not sure which way Game for War meant this, but statistically, Jeter was the worst defensive shortstop of all time, yet made some amazing plays. Yeah, and I think And look how long he played shortstop for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to my point, it's like, I think Vientos can be that good. I think Vientos can be as good defensively as Jeter was at his position. So I think Vientos has done enough to maybe stick. That said, Ibby, we're at an hour and 45 minutes. So let's get into some final thoughts and get out of here for the week. Anything we didn't get to you want to cover here for our Mets?
Nothing in particular. I mean,
sorry. Game for war. I just hate Jeter. He's like, I didn't mean that in any way. I just wanted to bring up anything I could bring up to slander Jeter, which is appreciated. That's totally fine. It's just great. I didn't mean that in defense or to hate on Vientos. I just want to be clear. I just hate Jeter, which is great.
The only thing I got left is just looking at the schedule. We got 9 games left in August. Again, it's 4 against the Padres in San Diego, 3 against the Diamondbacks in Arizona, and then, of course, 2 to end the month, obviously, in Chicago. I'm sure there's one is it one in September as well?
Yeah, it's a 3
Yes,
games.
so 3 game set. So I'm just looking at it from August just in general. So that's 9 games. If you want to include that last one, call it 10 games. I really think that this team, again, it sucks because they didn't do damage when they were supposed to in those previous 13 games that I had mentioned last week. But you look at those 10 games. I mean, am I wrong for saying I want 7-3? I'll settle for 6-4, I guess. But look, it's big because it's guys that you're facing that are ahead of you. And I really think that this, again, the offense needs to play big. I'm pumped up. I'm glad that I really hope that the energy carries over for this next game because, again, Sevy's on the bump. Cease has been no joke, okay? I think his last couple starts, maybe he's been a little bit down, but overall he's been lights out. So you need that energy, and you really, really got to set the tone for a 4-game set that first game, especially with Cease on the mound in their house. Those Padres fans, they can be loud. Like,
especially because I'm driving down to San Diego to see the game.
John's going to be driving for 47 hours.
Don't make me waste gas, you sons of bitches.
John's going to be driving forever.
It's like $5.40 a gallon in California. Don't make me waste gas.
But no,
get up for this game,
again.
dicks.
Shout out to everyone in the chat, all the love. 133 in here right now. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to give away the Edwin Diaz ball. Again, personal collection. I have no reason to give it away, but if we hit 1,000, I will give it away, and I will keep pushing that until it actually happens. But shout out to everyone. Love the respect. Love everything that you brought to the chat today. Mets are playing some good baseball. Winning 2 of the last 3. Let's carry it over, and let's make the rest of this run, if you will, these next 6 weeks. Let's make it one to remember. Let's go Mets.
You know what? A lot of great stuff in there, Ibby. And if we get to the 1,000 subscribers and in good enough fashion, quick enough fashion, maybe I will follow suit. I've got some cool stuff in my collection, so maybe we'll give something away from my collection too. Maybe I have something from a different era of Mets fandom in my personal collection that somebody would really appreciate from a Met legend of a bygone era. Maybe I have something like that I would give away if maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe. Stephanie saying great useless podcast, John. Somebody called this podcast useless the other day on Twitter amidst
sweet.
Yeah, they said nobody cares about your useless podcast. And I was like, well, you can ask the hundreds of people that tune in live every week. And if that's not enough for you, maybe you could ask Terry Collins or Todd Frazier or Turk Wendell, Glendon Rush, Ty Kelly, Anthony Recker, Casey Stern, Lori Rubinson, or any of the other great Mets podcasters, your favorite Mets podcaster, because they've all been great guests on the show. TJ wants a signed Ty Cobb ball from the personal collection. Listen, TJ, I like doing this, but if I had a signed Ty Cobb baseball, I would sell that shit so fast and you'd never hear from me again. I'd live on a beach somewhere.
It's like if anyone ever saw the if you haven't, you should. If you haven't seen the movie Basketball, like the signed Ty Cobb bat that ended up getting tossed in the fire. Yeah. That's basically what would happen with Johnny. He would toss that right into the fire.
Carlos Ortiz saying Keith Hernandez signed autograph photo, John. There's a Keith Hernandez signed autograph jersey behind me. You can't have that. Nobody's getting that one. We should.
I did give away a Keith Hernandez signed photo. Somebody did.
That's
that.
true.
Yeah,
That's true. You did give that away. No, but I'm not. This is my.
That one stays. Yeah,
Keith signed this for me.
Yeah.
Like this was a jersey I owned that I gave to him to sign, and he signed it in per. You're not getting that. No one's getting that one. It'd be maybe, and maybe we should have a contest on this show. Maybe we should have a Podkidster contest on this show. Maybe we should audition a bunch of 9-year-olds, and the best one gets to host the show for 15 minutes.
I am not jumping into this muck with you. I refuse.
What's the big deal? We do 2 hours a week for 52 times a year, sometimes extra. What's 15 minutes? I'm sure that it would be riveting for fans of this show to hear a 9-year-old.
If you want a 3.5-year-old, I can get my daughter to come downstairs and she can babble along for you.
No, Ibby, I'm sorry. I'm sure your kids are terrific, but one, they're too young. And also just we have to make this fair and balanced. So nepotism, your kids can't be eligible.
You know what? You're right.
Can't be eligible. Listen, the one thing I want to say about the firestorm that I started on Twitter, Ibby thought we were going to get through this entire show.
I thought we were.
I don't, for those of you who don't know this, I don't have kids. Ibby has 2 beautiful kids. But what was really funny was that one guy was like, how is this any different from a kid playing fireman or walking around with like a Fisher-Price hammer and nailing things? I'm like, it's exactly different because the kid is not actually, there's no 9-year-old that is putting out fires with the FDNY. There is no 9-year-old who is working for a contracting company rebuilding homes. This is a real situation. So you know what? The Kidcaster thing, you guys have swayed me. It's great, but you want to impress me next time, have a 9-year-old play shortstop for the 4th inning. Let's see how that goes. Let's have kids live out their dreams. Okay.
All right. We'll get out of here on this because we've been here forever, but I must ask this question. And I haven't asked John this question. I have to ask it. The second you hit send on that, you know damn well that it was going to be a storm. You knew that. Don't tell me you didn't. You knew that.
In all seriousness, I knew that people probably weren't going to like it. But I've said on this show, and I've said to you, and I've said it on Twitter, that I do not post things for reactions. So I was not engagement farming. I was not trying to get a rise out of people. I do think it's kind of useless. But I stand by what I said. I don't think that the kid shouldn't be proud. Everybody has said he's done a good job. TJ even said, not going to lie, his call on the RBI single was really good. I'm not interested in watching baseball that way. So I switched, because I watch on the MLB app, I switched the feed to the radio call during the inning that he called. And I just listened that way, and then I switched back. You could call me a monster if you want. That's fine. They should let the kid pitch a game. The kid would be better than Quintana from Armand. That's fair. Also from Game for War, the kid's not even allowed to read the MANSCAPED promo. We'd work around that. We'd have one of us do the MANSCAPED promo. No, but like, Ibby, so did I know it was going to get a reaction? Yeah, I figured it would get a reaction. But I didn't post it for a reaction. I didn't post it so that I would get engagement. I truly don't see I don't think it makes a lot of sense to do. I think it's kind of dumb. But I also admit that I don't have kids. I don't want kids. So I don't have skin in the game as far as that's concerned. I just want to watch baseball and have it not be interrupted by a little kid. So if that makes me a monster, I'm sorry. But I also, for the people who were like, how could you be so down on this kid? I'm not. Like, I'm sure he did fine. And I'm sure it was wonderful for him. And I hope that it was wonderful. I hope he remembers it forever. I hope his family and his friends are proud of him. He should be proud of himself. He should follow his dreams to whatever end. It's not about the kid. I just think the whole idea is kind of stupid. And if that makes me a monster, that's fine. But I do think it's really funny when people took the moral high ground and were like, you're a piece of shit. It's like, how are you taking the moral high ground while simultaneously calling me a piece of shit just because I think a contest is dumb? And Ibby, keeping it 100, I don't like when people who are not Gary, Keith, and Ron call the games. Like a lot of Mets fans don't. I don't like when Apple TV calls it. I don't like when ESPN calls it. I don't like when Gary doesn't come to work and Gary Apple or Steve Gelbs calls it. I don't like when ESPN mics up players on the field. I think it's all a gimmick. I just want to turn on a baseball game and watch it with the commentators that I like. So, maybe I'm wrong, but, that's fine.
Let the record show I don't have beef with children. I don't mind it. I just wanted to I want to make sure it was out there that I don't get dragged. Again, I refuse to get dragged into the muck on Twitter anymore. So let John and that 200 plus impressions that tweet got with 40 plus quote tweets. And yeah, I read some of them and no, it was not pretty, but God bless you. But
Ibby, let me ask you this before we get out of here. Yeah. And this will be the last time we ever address this on the show, which is why I'm gonna beat a dead horse on this.
Yeah.
You're a dad. You're a proud dad.
Yes.
You have 2 kids. Like I said, you have 2 beautiful daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that what I said? Look, I'll admit that like after the fact, I was kind of like needling people because I thought that some of their reactions were too insane.
Right. And
I was like, let me poke the bear for fun. Let me have fun with it. The initial thing that I said, do you think that was mean to say? Like, do you think that was too far as a dad where I was like, I did say to somebody that I probably should have worded it saying like, I think it's dumb.
Right. But it came across as a blanket statement.
Yeah. Right. But my implication the whole time was like, what I tweeted was, I'll say it. The Kidcaster thing is dumb. What I guess I should have said was, I'll admit I think the Kidcaster thing is dumb or something like that. But that was the tone that I was saying it with. So as a dad, do you think I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe this son of a bitch?
No, I never thought of it in that sense. And this just comes back to what I said to you a couple of days ago when we were having a conversation where it's like the second you say something, no matter what, somebody, or in this case, a group of people, they're going to already have their minds made up. It doesn't matter. They're going to think what they want to think, and they're going to hammer it home and let you know what they think, regardless of you going back and trying to, put the emphasis on what you were trying to get across. They've already made up their mind. It doesn't matter. Like this is how the internet works, unfortunately. But no, as a dad, I didn't care what you said because I said, like, I don't get that involved into something like that because I didn't mind it. Someone else didn't mind it. It's not as though you completely, attacked the kid. You just said it wasn't for you. But again, when someone reads that quickly, especially coming off of even something like T said before, I thought his RBI call was good. Like people enjoyed what he did, enjoying what the kid did and how he carried himself, then seeing that comment, it just lights the fuse. And like everyone's just is going to crush you. But no, as a father, no, I didn't care about it. Because like I said, I'm focused on what I like. And I didn't mind it. It was fine. And I didn't look at it from the sense of me being a dad. Like I just looked at it as, okay, this guy doesn't want kids doing it. It's like, whatever. Like I knew the second I read it, I knew that it was going to cause a giant stir.
Yeah. And look, I'll admit, if I was like critiquing the kid, that's insane, right? Like I'm a grown man. If I was like, this kid's call's not as good as everybody thinks, like that's insane. That's to me, that's insane commentary. Right. But to not like it as a concept, I think is pretty benign, all told. Especially, let me just throw this out there. There are some people, that got mad at me thinking that I was criticizing a kid, right? Which I wasn't doing because I didn't even listen to it. There are people who got mad at me who are parents thinking that I was criticizing a kid when meanwhile, I bet you that some of those same people have done way worse at their own kids' Little League game or their own kids' soccer game, or whether it's criticizing their own kid or criticizing a kid on another team and actually criticizing the kid. I was just like, this isn't for me. But you know what also isn't for me? Again, I don't have kids. Wouldn't it be fucking weird if I was like, you know what I love to do on my weekends off? I like to pop over to the park and check out the Little League game. I like to just pop over there and check that out. I just love the game. I just love growing the game. So when I see people like, oh my God, there's another line of a kidcaster who's doing so great. Like, dude, this is not your kid. It's a little fucking weird how you're just waxing poetic. And I'll say it. The 7 line's a little weird with this shit. Like, get over it, dude. Don't. Get over it. Like, oh, man, I'll tell you what, this kid's real talented. He's a real talented kid. Look how talented he is. It's not your kid, dude. Relax. Anyway, before I get booted off of this show and every show I've ever done, for people brand me as some kind of kid hater. Have I derailed this enough? We're at 2 hours. Can we leave?
It's time to go. Yes. It's time to fucking go.
Ibby just wants to watch the Joey Votto retirement video. So
I do.
Hell, man. Why did you drag on this show for another 12 minutes when we could have just moved on from this? No, I respect it. Listen, guys, all jokes aside, I thought it was a couple fun moments to have at the end of the show. Just kind of take us out for the week. So I love Carlos Ortiz. He plays the violin and sings opera, John, which is something that the 7 line needed to make sure that they highlighted. Anyway, and I say that as somebody who's gone to 7 line outings and wrote a slogan for them and bought their merch. So I like the 7 line, but it just chill out a little bit. Anyway, guys, we could not do the show without you. The comments, the questions, all of that stuff, absolutely fantastic. I like that Armand's like, John, keep talking. Appreciate you, but no, we're going to get out of here. It's 2 hours. Ibby does have a family to get to. I have to pack. There's a lot of stuff we have to do, but great comments, great conversation. Let's go Mets. Big time road trip. I'm going to be in the house tomorrow. If you live in Southern California, and I know a lot of people on Mets Twitter do, and you're going to be there, hit me up. Maybe we'll, get together and, drink a beer or something like that. I'm going to be there tomorrow only. So let me know if you're going to be there too. And the next time we record, Ibby, we're going to know a lot more about our New York Mets. This is likely not going to be the final thing that happens either way. There's going to still be too much baseball swinging this either way, but we're going to know a lot more about where they are the next time we do this show. And 100%. That's the most important thing, all jokes aside. So with that said, I'm John. That's Ibby. This is Til Mets Do Us Part. Shout out to Brella Sports. Shout out to John Manconi. Thank you to Olivia, who edits this for audio consumption.
Shout out to all the future kidcasters too.
Yeah, shout out to all the, if you got a dream, go get it or whatever. So I got to stop. We got to end the show before I get in trouble. This has been a lot of fun. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.